There's something truly powerful that happens when God places His hand upon a person's life. One of the first, and perhaps most misunderstood, signs of divine blessing isn't material wealth or applause from the world. It's peace. But not just any peace. This is a kind of inner stillness that doesn't make sense to the natural mind. It's the quiet assurance that no matter what's going on around you, you are held, you are guided, and you are secure. When you're walking in God's favor, you'll begin to notice that your reaction to pressure changes. The storms don't stop, but your spirit doesn't flinch the same way. Where others panic, you pause. Where others fight, you trust. It's not that you've grown numb or indifferent to life's challenges. On the contrary, you become more alive, more aware, but no longer controlled by fear or anxiety. That is the supernatural fingerprint of God on your life. There will be moments when you look around at your circumstances and think, by all logic, I should be breaking down right now. But you're not. You're calm. You're steady. You're even smiling. That's when you know something deeper is at work in you. That peace is not something you conjured. It's not the result of positive thinking. It's a divine deposit, a gift that comes from knowing that the one who created the stars also holds your future. You won't need to force this peace. When you're aligned with God, when your heart is positioned to receive, this peace finds you. It moves into your spirit without noise, without drama. It replaces restlessness with calm confidence. And that confidence doesn't come from how smart you are, how strong you are, or how many backup plans you've stacked in place. It comes from one source, knowing that God's plan is better than yours, and He's already ahead of you, clearing the way. You'll start to notice that even when problems come, you don't carry them the same way. It's not that they're gone. It's that they've lost their power over you. There's a strength that comes when your soul is anchored in truth. Truth that says you are not alone, you are not forgotten, and you are not being punished. You're being prepared. And when you know that, even the trials begin to look different. They're not roadblocks, they're signposts that something greater is on the way. Sometimes this peace looks like silence. You won't always have answers. You won't always hear thunder from the sky. But you'll wake up with an unshakable sense that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. You'll sit in the middle of uncertainty and feel no rush to escape it. Why? Because deep down, you know the author of the story hasn't left the pen. He's still writing, and his timing is perfect. People around you will notice. They'll ask, "How are you so calm?" And you won't have a formula to give them. You'll just know that something shifted. That peace, my friend, is a divine sign. It's heaven's whisper that says, "You're covered." When others are losing sleep, yours comes easy. When others are chasing validation, you feel content. That's not luck. That's not self-help. That's God. Don't ignore that sign. When it shows up, protect it. Don't trade it for opinions. Don't sacrifice it for temporary highs. The enemy will try to steal your peace because he knows how powerful a calm spirit is. He knows that a person at peace can hear God clearly. He knows that peace is where revelation flows. So guard it. Not with fear, but with reverence, with gratitude, with surrender. There's no blessing greater than walking in peace while the world shakes around you. Because that peace is proof you've been touched by God. You've been chosen for something higher than just survival. You've been chosen to stand as a lighthouse in the middle of the storm, not because you have all the answers, but because you trust the one who does. That kind of peace is never accidental. When God begins to bless a person, something extraordinary happens. Doors start to open without striving. You're not pushing, not pulling, not knocking yourself out trying to force an outcome, yet somehow the right people show up, the timing aligns. The opportunities you once chased start to find you. This isn't luck. This isn't coincidence. This is divine orchestration. It's what happens when heaven gets involved in the flow of your life. Most people live believing that if they're not grinding every second, they're falling behind. But when you're walking in God's blessing, favor begins to move ahead of you. It prepares the way. It softens hearts before you even speak. It sets meetings in motion you never could have arranged yourself. You step into rooms that were never supposed to be yours on paper. But God doesn't move by paper. He moves by purpose. You'll notice that the resistance you used to feel starts to break. What once felt like walking uphill now feels like walking with the wind at your back. You're still working, still showing up. But the weight is different. There's a lightness to your effort, a grace on your pace. You realize you're no longer begging for a seat at the table. God has built a new table and pulled out a chair just for you. This is not about entitlement. This is not about sitting back and doing nothing. No, it's about alignment. When your spirit is aligned with God's will, when you've laid down your own agenda to pick up something higher, something eternal, doors swing open that no man can shut. And not just any doors, doors that lead to purpose, to impact, to destiny. It's amazing what happens when you stop chasing things that were never meant to be yours. You stop forcing relationships that drain you. You stop pursuing positions that don't fit you. And in that surrender, space is created. And in that space, God moves. What you were chasing begins to chase you, not because you need it to complete you, but because it now fits the assignment on your life. You'll find yourself in moments where you look around and say, I didn't plan this. I couldn't have mapped this out. And you're right, you didn't. But heaven did. You walked with integrity. You kept planting when no one was watching. And now, suddenly, it's harvest time. You're not manipulating, not networking your way through closed doors. You're simply walking through the ones that are opening on their own. And those are the doors worth walking through. You know it's a divine door when you didn't have to betray your values to open it. You didn't have to become someone else. You didn't have to exhaust your soul to keep it from closing. You walked in and there was peace. There was clarity. There was confirmation. That's not hustle. That's heaven. It's important to recognize the difference between an open door and a distraction. Not every opportunity is a blessing. Some are just shiny detours. But when God opens a door, it doesn't lead you into confusion. It leads you into clarity. You feel stretched, yes. Challenged, yes. But deep down, you know you're in the right place. And there's fruit, real fruit, not just business, not just activity. Fruit that changes lives, fruit that lasts. Don't be surprised when others start asking how you got there. They'll look at your path and won't be able to trace it, because the favor of God will make your journey unexplainable by human standards. It will make people ask questions. Let them. You don't need to justify favor. You need to carry it well, with humility, with gratitude, and with wisdom. Here's the truth. When God starts opening doors, you'll still have to walk through them. Blessing doesn't mean passivity. It means readiness. It means preparation meeting purpose. Don't shrink when the opportunity comes. Don't talk yourself out of the very thing you prayed for. Step in. Own it, not with arrogance, but with boldness. The kind of boldness that comes from knowing you didn't get there alone. And you're not going forward alone either. Some of the doors God opens will scare you at first. They'll be bigger than what you thought you were ready for. That's the point. God doesn't bless you to keep you comfortable. He blesses you to grow you, to stretch you into the full measure of who He created you to be. So when that door swings open and your heart starts racing, walk through it. That's not fear. That's the sound of your calling rising. When God starts blessing your life, you won't have to chase what's meant for you. It will meet you right where you are when you're ready. There's a moment in every blessed person's journey when something almost strange starts to happen. People begin to show up. But not just any people. I'm talking about individuals who go out of their way to help you, speak on your behalf, open doors, offer support, even sacrifice their time or influence without expecting anything in return. You didn't ask for it, you didn't campaign for it, and you certainly didn't manipulate it. It just happens. And that's not chance, that's favor. That's what it looks like when God puts His hand on a life. You won't be able to explain it. People will take chances on you when they normally wouldn't. They'll speak your name in rooms you've never stepped into. They'll see something in you before you've fully seen it in yourself. They won't even know why they're helping you, but you will. Deep down, you'll sense it. This is divine. This is orchestrated. This is what it looks like when heaven influences the hearts of people on your behalf. See, the blessing of God isn't always about what you hold in your hands. Sometimes it's about who He sends into your life. And not everyone He sends looks like you expected. Sometimes the ones who help you don't share your background, your values, or even your beliefs. But they're assigned to elevate you, protect you, connect you. That's divine favor working behind the scenes, through people. This kind of favor is unearned. It's not tied to your resume or your reputation. It's not something you apply for. It shows up because of something deeper, God's purpose being activated in your life. When your heart is right and your motives are clean, people are drawn to that. They won't always know why, but they'll want to support it. That's the difference between manipulation and favor. One requires convincing. The other attracts by design. You'll find yourself wondering why people are going out of their way for you. And the answer isn't in you, it's in what's on you. When the blessing of God is on your life, people feel it, even if they can't explain it. They feel compelled to be part of your journey. Some will write checks. Some will offer wisdom. Some will simply show up when no one else does. And each one plays a part in a bigger plan. But listen closely. When this kind of favor begins to show up, handle it with humility. Don't let it inflate your ego. Don't mistake the favor of man as a reward for your charm or charisma. It's not about your ability. It's about your assignment. God will surround you with the right people, not to make you look good, but to help you do good. It's not about status. It's about service. Every person he sends is there to push you further into purpose. And sometimes the ones he sends will also correct you. That's favor too. Someone who tells you the truth when it's uncomfortable. That's a blessing. Someone who keeps you grounded when the spotlight gets bright. That's a blessing. Divine favor doesn't just elevate, it protects. It brings people who won't let you sabotage what God is doing through you. People who remind you where you came from and where you're going. That's favor in its highest form. There will be moments where you realize, I didn't make this happen. I couldn't have arranged this connection. And that realization should keep you humble. Stay grateful. The more you recognize and honor divine favor, the more it flows. It's not about flattering people. It's about honoring what God is doing through them. Sometimes the people he uses won't even know they were part of your breakthrough. A timely email. A conversation you happen to overhear. These aren't coincidences. These are moments crafted by a divine hand. Pay attention. Be aware. And when you recognize favor in action, respond with honor, not just toward people, but toward God. Favor with people doesn't mean you'll never face opposition. In fact, sometimes it draws it. But the key difference is that even in the face of resistance, favor keeps showing up. One door closes, another opens. One person walks away, someone better steps in. You're not dependent on people, but you understand God works through them. And here's the truth. When you walk in this kind of favor, you also become it. You stop just looking for people to help you, and you become the person who helps others. The favor on your life becomes a channel for someone else's breakthrough. You begin to see that the blessing wasn't just for you. It was meant to flow through you. You don't have to chase this kind of favor. You don't have to beg for it. Live with integrity. Stay aligned with purpose. Keep your heart right. And watch what happens. People will be drawn to you, not because of who you are, but because of whose you are. When God begins to bless a person, one of the most powerful and personal signs isn't always visible on the outside. It happens within. There's a shift, a transformation. It's not loud. It doesn't announce itself. But slowly and sometimes suddenly, the way you see yourself starts to change. The way you move, the way you speak, the way you make decisions, it all begins to align with something higher. You're no longer operating from the same place you used to. That's the sign. That's how you know God is at work inside you. You begin to outgrow things you once clung to. The drama that used to excite you starts to drain you. The circles you used to feel comfortable suddenly feel too small. And it's not because you're better than anyone. It's because you're becoming better than who you used to be. That's what divine blessing does. It doesn't just give you things. It gives you growth. Real growth. Lasting change. There's a moment in this journey when the voice of God becomes louder than the voice of culture. When his purpose for your life becomes more valuable than popularity. You don't need the same validation anymore. You don't chase approval. You don't compromise to fit in. Why? Because you're finally starting to understand who you really are, and more importantly, whose you really are. The blessing of God isn't just about elevation. It's about revelation. He begins to reveal to you what's been hidden under layers of insecurity, fear, and past wounds. You begin to see yourself through the lens of destiny, not history. You're no longer defined by what happened to you. You're shaped by what he's calling you toward. And when that happens, you can feel the difference. You make decisions with a clarity you didn't have before. You start choosing purpose over preference, discipline over distraction, vision over emotion. It's not always easy. In fact, the transformation is often uncomfortable because you're shedding old identities. You're letting go of habits that once gave you comfort, even though they were never meant to carry you. And that letting go feels like loss at first. But soon it turns into liberation. You stop living from your wounds and start living from your worth. And that's when life begins to change, not just around you, but within you. People around you may not understand it. They might say, "You've changed." And they're right. You have. That's what growth looks like. That's what favor feels like. It's not about arrogance. It's about alignment. You're not walking around trying to impress anymore. You're trying to fulfill the calling, fulfill the purpose, fulfill the vision God has planted inside you. There comes a moment when you're no longer attracted to the noise. You start craving stillness, craving truth, craving God's voice over everyone else's. You stop comparing your journey to others because you finally realize your path was never meant to look like anyone else's. You were never meant to copy the world. You were born to reflect the image of the one who created you. That realization, that identity, is a sign of blessing. That's a shift only God can create. You start feeling more responsible with your time. You start protecting your energy, not in a selfish way, but because you now understand that your life has weight, your words matter. Your presence shifts atmospheres. And when you know that, you stop entertaining nonsense. You stop settling. You stop shrinking. Not because you're trying to be powerful, but because you finally understand that you are. That clarity of purpose is one of the most valuable gifts God can give. It becomes your compass. You stop wandering. You stop doubting so much. You stop asking everyone else for directions because you've learned how to hear from the source. The confusion that used to cloud your mind lifts, and in its place is vision. You don't see every step ahead, but you see enough to move. And that's what faith looks like. And here's the beautiful part: once God begins to work on the inside of you, everything else begins to shift. Your relationships change. Your attitude changes. Even your environment begins to respond differently to the energy you carry. That's not ego. That's impact. That's the power of walking in identity. You're no longer reacting to life. You're responding with intention. So don't ignore that sign. When your heart starts to change, when your choices begin to align with who you were created to be, honor that. Protect it. Nurture it. Because that's not just growth. That's not just maturity. That's the mark of God's blessing. It's the evidence that you're not who you used to be. And you're not going back. Transformation is the foundation for every other blessing. Without it, you can't carry what God wants to give you. But with it, you become unstoppable, not because of your strength, but because of the strength that's been built within you. When God blesses a person, protection becomes part of that blessing. It's not always the kind of protection you can see, not always something you can touch, but when you look back, you know, there was no way you made it through that on your own. You realize you were spared, not because you were smart enough, not because you made all the right choices, but because God's hand was covering you the whole time. And when that becomes clear to you, it humbles you. It shifts your entire outlook on life. There are moments in your life when you didn't even know you were in danger, relational danger, emotional danger, spiritual danger, and somehow the door closed before you could walk through it. You were disappointed at the time, maybe even angry. You thought you lost something. But in reality, you were being preserved. What felt like rejection was actually divine redirection. What looked like a setback was protection in disguise. That's the blessing nobody talks about enough, being protected from what you thought you wanted. Sometimes we ask God for things that are not aligned with where He's taking us. We think we're ready for certain platforms, positions, or people, but we don't see what He sees. We don't see the trap on the other side. We don't see the heartbreak waiting at the end. So in His mercy, He shuts the door. And when you're walking in His blessing, you'll begin to see those closed doors not as punishment, but as protection. You'll thank Him for the things He didn't let happen. There's protection that comes through wisdom too. When you're aligned with God's purpose, you start making decisions that guard your future. You no longer walk blindly into situations. You don't take every opportunity just because it looks good. You ask, you pause, you discern. And that's the blessing. Your spirit becomes sensitive to danger before it fully forms. That's not paranoia. That's divine insight. That's God whispering, "Not this one. Stay back. Wait here." You'll find yourself being protected from people too. People who smile in your face but speak against you in private. People who would have drained you, distracted you, or pulled you out of alignment with your calling. And sometimes you don't even realize who they were until they're gone. But God knew. And because you were covered, they couldn't get close enough to destroy you. And let's talk about timing, because that's a form of protection too. God knows when to let certain things unfold in your life. And when you're walking in His favor, He will not let things come before you're ready. You may feel frustrated because something hasn't happened yet, but the delay is not a denial, it's a safeguard. If he gave it to you too soon, it would crush you. But when the time is right, it will feel effortless. Not because it's easy, but because you'll be prepared. That preparation, that's protection too. There are people who look at your life and wonder how you've made it this far. They know what you've been through. They saw the situations that should have broken you, and they're confused. But you're not confused, you're covered. You were shielded in moments that should have destroyed your peace. You were protected in environments that could have taken your mind. And now, you walk not with pride, but with quiet confidence, knowing you're still here because God kept you here. The deeper you go into your purpose, the more you'll understand how necessary that protection is. Because blessing attracts pressure, it attracts attention. And the more influence you carry, the more protection you'll need. God won't just give you blessings. He'll surround them. He'll place boundaries where you don't even realize you need them. He'll hide you from enemies who don't even know they're your enemies yet. That's what happens when your life is under divine order. Nothing gets to you unless it's passed through His permission. This doesn't mean you'll never face battles, but it means the battles won't break you. You may bend, but you won't snap. You may stumble, but you won't stay down. Because you're not fighting alone. God will go ahead of you. He'll surround you. He'll give you strength where others fall apart. And that strength, that resilience, that's a clear sign that you are blessed and protected. You won't always be able to explain how you made it through. You won't always be able to articulate why you felt peace when everything was falling apart. But you'll know. Deep in your soul, you'll know something bigger than you was holding you up. You'll understand that protection isn't the absence of conflict. It's the presence of God in the middle of it. So don't overlook the blessing just because it doesn't come wrapped in applause or spotlight. Sometimes, the greatest sign that you're walking in God's blessing is simply this: you're still standing. When God truly blesses a person, something begins to overflow, not just in their circumstances, but in their spirit. You can feel it. Gratitude begins to rise, not the kind that comes and goes with emotions, but the kind that settles in your bones. You wake up, and before the problem starts speaking, your heart is already saying, "Thank you." You begin to look around at things you once took for granted, your breath, your peace, your purpose, and you feel rich, not because of what's in your bank account, but because of what's been awakened inside of you. That's the sign. That's how you know God has touched your life, not because you have everything, but because you no longer need everything to feel whole. You begin to live with a deep awareness that you are walking in something sacred. You didn't earn it. You didn't hustle for it. It came from above. And that kind of awareness changes how you move. Gratitude becomes your language. You stop complaining so quickly. You stop comparing. You start appreciating what's around you because you now understand it's all connected to grace. Even the small things, the quiet moments, the closed doors that once hurt, the people who stayed, the peace you didn't have to fight for, you see it all differently now. That shift in perspective, that posture of gratitude, is one of the clearest signs of divine blessing. Because when you've really been touched by God, entitlement dies and reverence is born. But it doesn't stop there. Gratitude opens the door for generosity. When you're truly blessed, you stop asking, "What can I get?" and start asking, "What can I give?" You no longer see people as competitors. You see them as opportunities to pour into. You're not intimidated by someone else's success because you're too busy being grateful for your own journey. You become a vessel, not just a receiver. And when that shift happens, you move from living off the blessing to living as the blessing. That's powerful. That's divine. Because real blessing is never selfish. It multiplies. It moves through you into others, and you don't need a stage or spotlight to do it. You do it through your words, through your time, through how you treat the people around you when no one's watching. When you've truly been blessed, something in you refuses to withhold. You want to give. You want to build. You want to lift. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you've tasted what it feels like to be on the receiving end of God's grace. And now you want someone else to experience it too. And don't think generosity is just about money. Generosity is a mindset. It's a way of living. It's the way you listen to people. The way you forgive when you don't have to. The way you encourage others, even when you're still waiting on your own breakthrough. That's generosity. That's what blessed people do. Because when your heart is full, your hands don't stay closed. Something begins to rise in you, a responsibility. Not a heavy one, not a burden, but a sense of divine purpose. You start realizing that your life has weight. That what you've been given is not just for you to enjoy, but to steward. That your story, your scars, your progress, it can all become someone else's breakthrough if you're willing to share it. When God blesses you, He also equips you to bless others in ways you never imagined. You may find yourself doing things you never thought you would. Mentoring, giving, supporting, speaking up, stepping out. Not because it's comfortable, but because it's right. Something in you refuses to stay silent. You know you didn't make it through just to sit in silence. You were preserved for a reason. You were blessed to be a blessing. And that's the mark. That's the undeniable sign that the hand of God is on someone's life. It's not just what they have, it's what they give. It's how they love. It's how they serve. It's how they show up when no one asks. It's how they give without expecting anything back. Because that's what heaven looks like on earth. People moving with the heart of God, carrying the presence of God, being generous not out of obligation, but out of overflow. So if you ever wonder whether God is truly blessing your life, don't just look at what you've gained. Look at what's flowing out of you. Look at how you treat people. Look at how you give when it's inconvenient. Look at how you celebrate others even when no one celebrates you. That's the evidence. That's the fruit. The blessing isn't just that you received it. It's that you became it.